Ready to get started? Hi all, my name is Brian Milburn. I am a director at CSD Learns. Welcome. Today's webinar is called A Closer Look. We have a special spotlight today on cybersecurity. I'm going to go ahead and get started. Usually we start with guidelines that we like to make sure of before we proceed into the webinar. Make sure that you're using, first off, a computer instead of a mobile device, because Zoom in this format is generally a struggle on a mobile device. If you need interpreters, we do have voice interpreters here today, so you can turn your sound on. The caption, unfortunately, our captionist wasn't able to show up today. We feel like it might be due to the storm that's happening in Texas. So there won't be any captioning tonight. However, we will have the recorded footage added with the caption later on that will be added probably in about a week. If you need any tech support, please message us in the chat. We ask that you have your Zoom up to date for the best viewing experience. Any questions? Feel free to use the chat or use the Q&A. I'm pretty sure that you're all used to Zoom by now. As I said, my name is Brian. My sign name is there on my side of my head. I do not live in New York. Well, not New York City anyway. I live in Rochester, New York, very close to RIT. I actually used to teach there. And my background here is a green screen. You can see Central Park, but that's not where I'm at. Today we have two special guests. First, Dr. May Kennedy, and second is Amanda Wyrick. May and Amanda, you want to pop on and say hi?
Hi.
Hello.
Just introduce yourself real quick as to where you are, a little bit about yourself.
Hello, I'm Dr. May Kennedy, and I got my PhD in instructional design for online learning, and that really is my fascination. I like to study how students learn online and design assets for visual learning. So I've been consulting with CSD Learns on various different projects, and I currently reside in Austin, Texas.
Fantastic. Yeah, May's been working with us for a while and our interests coincide. Amanda?
Hi, I'm Amanda Amanda, and I live in Lincoln, Nebraska. Lincoln. I currently work at CSD as an IT operations manager, and I've been with CSD for almost 5 years now. And I was also one of the panelists for CSD Learn Cybersecurity Toolkit. So I'm happy to be here today.
Happy you're both here. So the purpose of today's webinar, you see up on the screen, you might be educators. If that's the case, this is going to show you how to benefit from our toolkits. We have 19 different toolkits, some on STEM, some on personal finance over the last few years. Today, we'll give you some context on how it is that you use those, especially in the COVID context. We're going to show you how we make the toolkits. We also are going to give you a tour of IT's cybersecurity education and show you how easy our toolkits are to use. To start off, I would like to know who you all are. So here's a poll. And I would like to hear what your main area of focus is. Elementary school, middle school, high school, post-secondary, or other. Now, you see that there's a second poll question up there as well. And it asks, have you used CSD Learn's toolkits before? We'd like to know that information as well. May and Amanda, what are your areas of focus?
Really, with CSD Learns, I have seen the gamut from elementary, middle school, and high school, and touched on various different age groups. But other consultative work that I do focuses on post-secondary as well. So really, I touch on all areas, all ages.
Just a little bit about myself for the audience. I used to be a college professor, and I'm used to first year students coming into my classroom from different backgrounds and schools, schools for the deaf, mainstream schools, and whatnot. And I taught English grammar. It was difficult to try to get them out into the work world. So I know that K-12 is very important.
That is very true.
All right. See the poll finish up and get our answers. Okay, I'm seeing majority high school, almost half. Some college in there too. I see other. Other. Will you other people respond in the chat? Where is it that you're from? Oh, first time. I see almost half first time learning about toolkits. So I'm happy that you all are here with us. I see a good percent of you that plan on using our toolkits. Awesome. May has a surprise for you here tonight. Oh, somebody responding after school programs. I see. Well, welcome. Just want to give you a little bit of brief information about CSD Learns. We have a few partners that are critical to our success in the work that we've been doing. May here has been supporting us. RIT has been supporting us. General Motors and Wells Fargo. Without them, we certainly would not be here today. As I mentioned before, we have a myriad of STEM toolkits for elementary, middle school, and high school, with the predominant focus on middle school. Thank you to RIT. This includes the cybersecurity toolkit. Also talks about what engineering is, what's involved with that. 3D printing, we have one about that. We have one about immunology for elementary school and high school. High school one, though, that would be for students who are potentially considering that as a career. We have a toolkit for that. We also have the intro level at elementary school level, which is an easier to follow toolkit. On our website, which we'll show at the end of the webinar, you'll be able to find that information. We also have toolkits about personal finance, how to set up a business, dealing with debt, which are very popular topics right now, especially as the economy is evolving with these COVID times. One of them, we have a budgeting course that's going to be coming to Canvas as the learning management system fairly soon, this spring actually. Just wanted to give you a few seconds to look at this slide. So here you see how it is that we make our toolkits, the involvement of the process, the actual production, how it is that we plan it out. First, we get a subject matter expert. That's where we get the content from. So for cybersecurity, we bring in somebody from a university. We actually brought in somebody from the University of Huntsville who is an expert in cybersecurity. Then we bring in, we have a curriculum developer, which would be May.
Yes.
Do you want to
Right.
say
And
something about it?
sure, just like Brian was saying, there is so much work that went in to this process, from pulling in subject matter experts and the filming and creating of the content, and then the editing to make sure that everything fit and was age appropriate, and that it was also visual for signers and visual learners. So all in all, we're very, very proud of the work that we did in our creation.
Yeah, we've pulled in different role models, just like Amanda and May here tonight. And 2 years ago, we actually flew to Rochester here in New York and filmed, did the interviews and such. So you see the pictures on the slide. You can barely see Amanda there in the picture.
Yeah, she's tiny, very hard to see.
Yeah, you see like a shirt more. We've converted Amanda and some others into art form to make it be more interesting and compelling for younger audiences and guiding them through the process of instruction. It gets published on Canvas, Google Classroom, etc. So, any questions in regards to how it is that we make our stuff? Feel free to send me a message in the chat. I will keep an eye on this. So this is a little preview of what's to come. Great job there for the filming.
It was a very unique experience. I honestly had never done anything like that before, so it was fun.
For sure. So what Amanda went through in the studio, we aren't doing that anymore. Now we're using a COVID safe approach, as you see here. Where we do remote production. We ship the equipment to our subject matter experts, including smartphones, to the subject's home. We guide them through the process of setting it all up. And then the direction and camera is all, the director is all happening online. It's a new process for us, but the goal is to make sure that everybody is safe and that we keep quality there. One con would be, as the video that you just saw with Amanda signing the vocabulary, we were able to pan in and show different angles. Unfortunately, we're not able to do that panning remotely yet. We're trying to still figure out exactly how to do that and be more creative. But definitely look forward to going back to that someday. Now, the cybersecurity toolkit, the whole reason why we're here tonight. You see Amanda here. She was working with that equipment. So you might be wondering, what is that box with a bunch of wires coming out of it?
Ethernet cable, you will find them in a IT data closet. Sometimes you will see a label by the door at your store will say something like a data closet, or where the corner of the back office somewhere back there is where all of the routers, switches, servers are housed. You will find that kind of stuff in a data closet and a data center, where there's a lot like that, but rows and thousands of them where you have to walk by them and you use the cables for that.
Can you explain a little bit about how, well, in schools, how it is that you can identify quality wire work? We have an audience here, so the emphasis isn't on quality for the IT department.
You have sloppy people who need to get it done and get it done fast, and you have people who invest time and energy making sure it's done right and neatly. If you see the cables are organized and they're organized by color, you would often see yellow, red, and blue, and they identify their own networks or things that they're connected to. So if it's on neat with circles or zip ties, that person put a lot of time and energy and effort in that. But if it looked like a bird's nest, then it'd be hard to figure out where it came from or to. You would see that a lot. So it depends on who is the person behind the thing.
Ha, great advice. So if you go to school and you see the IT room and everything seems neatly organized and the wires are smooth rather than a jumbled mess, one is much better than the other. So I started out in IT actually and then veered off into education. So I do know a little bit about it. All right. Speaking of wires and such, what's the big deal? Cybersecurity. What comes to mind when we think of cybersecurity?
So, a lot of people, when thinking of cybersecurity, may have movies come to mind that discuss cybersecurity. And Amanda, do you think that this is real life?
There's a lot of paperwork, there's a lot of things behind the scene that is the media misportrayed what cybersecurity is. And a lot of people think, oh, it just happens on the government level or the CIA level. But really, it's ingrained with our day-to-day life more than anything.
Yeah, usually people think of hacking in terms of cybersecurity and that they're on the same level. Somebody breaking in, hacking, getting your information, some scanning color, having a projector and a special code. That movie Hacker had that. And remember Independence Day, how they beat the aliens is with an Apple computer. That's what ends up beating them. Do you think that's possible? Amanda, I see that face.
Yeah. Never say never.
So where is it that we get our concept of cybersecurity? I mean, I think that plays a big role in affecting us as teachers and what it is that we tell and represent to our students.
Very true. Yes.
That is a broad overview. When people think of cybersecurity, they think hackers. But really, that is just a small piece, rare piece of the pie. Protecting your data, your password, your bank account, your email. You might feel that, oh, the information I have is not important. Yes, it is, because you have information about others. You have their phone numbers, you have their contact list, you have their email address. You might have the Cast app information on your app. You need to protect yourself to protect other people that are part of your life, part of your digital life. So good password practices, being able to read policies, terms, and conditions of different companies like Facebook. All of that includes data security, privacy, and that is what cybersecurity is. Much more than just malware and hackers. It's a huge sector of IT industry.
So related to our understanding of cybersecurity, we surveyed 2,500 people in the UK and the United States, and it shows that 77% had no exposure whatsoever to cybersecurity in their education. Most people saw the concept of cybersecurity through movies or through the news, and usually it was in a negative light. It was because of criminal activity that had happened. One huge consequence of this is that Generation Z, the youngest generation, has a quote negative or a low perception of cybersecurity. Often they're influenced by social media, which is, full of trolls and bullies and a lot of just simply rude people. So how do you think that influences your work if they're not very interested in cybersecurity? This is May. I actually think that this is a correct reflection. There are a lot of people who are not familiar with cybersecurity or may not realize that the need is truly there when it is there.
There's a lot of money predicted in losses from theft, breaking in, stealing information. So you see here in 2017 the prediction, and then now into the billions, and most recently over the summer. Can you imagine 6 billion people with the password? What? So one out of every 7 had the password 1234567.
That's really hard for me to believe.
My point of view is easy for me to believe that. Today, I don't remember the stat, but the average business user has over 50 or 100 accounts or different passwords they have to remember. So, because of the different cloud-based availability to us, people tend to fall in the bad password practices by using the same password across multiple accounts, by using a simple password, not using a strong password. I have seen through my IT career people use password, exclamation point, or some form of that. Or sometimes there's like password or one exclamation point. Pretty common.
Oh, really?
Surprised me.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay, May. A few burning questions here for you. So, is cybersecurity really part of STEM?
Yes, cybersecurity is in fact a part of STEM. And here we've broken down what STEM represents. So how it is a part of science is through investigation and findings. That is done with cybersecurity. The E part with engineering and technology, those are obvious enough, but it does include math and economics. Not only that, but there's a social and human component involved. Criminology, sociology, the study of people. It's really all encompassing of STEM. And when you talk about STEM skills specifically, people who are interested in cybersecurity start with the basics like networking and hardware, software, coding, those basic skills. And then as they dive in deeper, they will typically branch out. And there are a lot of different branches within cybersecurity. It also requires soft skills, critical thinking and personal skills. All of those are incorporated into cybersecurity, but short answer, yes, cybersecurity is a part of STEM.
Okay, quote here. Thoughts?
Brian, would you like to take this or do you want me to? I'll let
Oh,
you.
I'll let you sign it. Okay. The point here really is to start young because the younger a person starts, the more skill they will have in this, be it hardware, software, then expanding on from there. Basically, same as what May was talking about.
This is very true. The younger students are exposed, the more they'll be interested and the more they'll be able to pick up as time goes on. So definitely, the younger you can start, the better.
Amanda, how old were you when you got started?
Well, I was exposed. Oh, I'm sorry, Amanda? This is May. I was exposed to computers at a young age, but the concept of cybersecurity, not so much until very much later. I'd say well into my 20s is when I started to become more aware of cybersecurity, and it just grew as time went on. Amanda?
My dad was a computer programmer, so he was one of those people who got the gateway computers that came in a huge cow-colored box. I was exposed to computers around 1995. I would have been 10 years old at the time. Um, my dad was also the one of the first people to get AOL and the internet. So I did learn how unsafe the internet was at a young age. How to be careful with exposing who you are, where you live, and not everyone on the internet is who they say they are. But now, as I am older, I look back, it was a little scary going back to that time. And then I got into it more when I was about 18 years old, 19, when I worked for the as a tech support. And then I wanted to advance in the field, and I realized I was good at it. So I decided to deviate from nursing program and went into IT. And then I just finished my master's in management of information system. So it's been a long journey to get here.
That's wonderful.
Congratulations. That's fantastic. More on that later. Next, May.
Yes, so this question is asking why is cybersecurity important for teachers to introduce uh, to their students? And of course, as we said earlier, the younger they're exposed, the better, and then for a variety of different reasons. There are many people who will unexpectedly find themselves in a vulnerable position because maybe they disclosed information they shouldn't have, or they, just being provided with that safety information, being prepared with that knowledge and being able to recognize as teachers that your students are maybe not safe and they're vulnerable in these spots. And in order to protect your students and give them the knowledge, teachers need to have this knowledge. So now's the time to educate yourselves, especially with cyberbullying, how to detect it, how to intervene early. It is so crucial that you incorporate this into your teaching.
There's also like malware and targeted ad that target kids. The intention is to breach the laptop or computer or the device that way, and that device might be used by their parents, school, or other people. So kids need to understand what they are clicking on has a consequence, whether it's a good one or a bad one. And if they're not expecting it, or if it doesn't look too good to be true, ask someone. And I think when we empower that with that information, that kind of thing would stick with them for the rest of their life.
Mm-hmm.
This is true, and it will help change how they respond to various situations where they're maybe uncertain. It'll give them the tools they need to make the best decisions. I agree. So since COVID,
Since
um,
we weren't spending as nearly as much time on the internet a year ago as we have been in the last year. You see the second statistic of more than a third K through 12 educators have not received the resources to better protect their devices used in instruction. And that 1 in 5 US school districts will offer fully online learning after the pandemic. So, this is really a change in the education industry.
you're right, Brian. These numbers show and tell that change is going to happen sooner rather than later. So everyone needs to be aware and protect themselves.
Next question. What is your role with cybersecurity?
As you mentioned earlier, or we mentioned earlier, we pull in SMEs, subject matter experts from all over. And so we did pull in someone from the University of Alabama who specializes in cybersecurity, and they consulted us on our work, our development. They gave us the content and the guidance that we needed. And with that, we got to work on the curriculum development. We pieced it together in a way to make it more visual and in a way that fit for that age group. And we were able to expand on the content. So that was my contribution on this particular project.
Right here, you see a graph with an overview of some of what cybersecurity entails.
I just realized I was pointing to the wrong side of the screen. So yes, this is an overview that I will explain more in depth. I will go into the toolkits themselves, but basically each week here is laid out as far as what's covered. There's various worksheets and resources that are available for each week. And this is a really nice quick overview that you can see at a glance and envision how you can incorporate this in with your existing teaching.
Can you explain a little bit more about this?
Yes, I can. These toolkits, as I said, they're broken down into 4 different weeks. Each week has its own topic where you'll meet a different role model for each week as well. And I'll give you an example of what these topics are. As you see, it says 6 cyber concepts, and there's a hand, a visual of a hand. And so, first, defense in depth, how to have an in depth thought of how to defend ourselves. They have think like an adversary, confidentiality, keep it simple, and you know honest. So basically, each week you dive into each of these topics, and this is a visual design, which means that there are pictorial examples or visual examples. Some students may not understand the word or the term, but if they see it in a visual form or in sign language, it helps them tie in that understanding and that knowledge. There's also worksheets and resources provided. At the end of each week, there's a recap or a review of what was learned in that earlier in that week. It's a great toolkit. It's beneficial to students. It's also beneficial to teachers to learn how, we can protect ourselves even as adults.
I started out in IT. Obviously, I'm not an expert by any means, but I can follow along and really understand that, and I'm able to pick up things too.
These toolkits were created for middle schoolers, but I really think they can apply to high schoolers
Sure.
in the same way. Yeah, they're very easy to navigate. They're intuitive in their design. And I think that the content will stick and it's something that they will all remember.
Hmm. So the next question: how how can teachers put CyberSense toolkits to use?
So this toolkit is available. If you look in the chat, you should see a link that you can click. And as you go there, you'll see videos, signed videos that actually I did, which will guide you through the toolkit as far as how to get started and how to navigate, which buttons to click. Once you see that, if you feel ready to download the toolkit, it's available in a PDF and a Google slide format. So you can choose whichever you feel is the best match for your instruction.
Wonderful. Exciting.
I hope I didn't forget anything. Yeah, that
No,
covers
very
it.
exciting. May, can you give some instruction on how it is to use this? We just set up Google Classroom, using Google Slides to make it easier to go ahead and copy that and use it in your own classroom and modify it for whatever the teachers want.
Oh yes, I wanted to add, I did explain in one of these features that the toolkit, when you download really both the PDF or Google Slides formats, you may feel like you don't want to go through the whole week's content, or you just want to parse it down to apply to what you're trying to teach your students. It's very easy to adjust and modify to match, your needs for your students. It is a very flexible tool that you can use.
Phenomenal. Thank you for that explanation. And you will see that now on our website. Now, shifting on, Amanda's here. And MS, what special happened to you recently, Amanda?
I graduated December, a couple of months ago, with a degree in Master's of Science in Management of Information Systems with a concentration in telecommunications. That's a
Congratulations.
mouthful.
Cheers to you.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Congratulations. Well, so you did explain a little bit earlier. Anything else you want to add?
I learned a lot about cybersecurity throughout my years working in IT. I mean, from networking to software to antivirus to making sure your computer's up to date, the websites are up to date, making sure there's no vulnerability, you need patches. So it is critical in everything that I do, especially now in today's world where we're going more and more and more virtual, more and more cloud based. So, and I am looking forward to more years to come to get more experience in this industry. I have enjoyed myself so far. And it's been challenging because there's not very many women in this field, let alone very many deaf women in this field. So I hope to see more in the future. It'd be really nice.
Yeah. For our toolkits, we generally pull in 4 role models, 3 of them being women, 1 male. Now, with the IT cyber toolkit, it was very difficult, very difficult to find.
We'll change that someday.
So, how does cybersecurity relate to you in your job?
We support over 100 users here at CSD, plus more at contact center. So cybersecurity applies to different areas. The contact center, we need to make sure that the badge entry doors are considered. You might think, oh, that's not related to computers. Yes, it is, because they'll be able to go in to an area where there are computers. So you have to think about physical security and how to implement that. And then for our virtual employees, we need to make sure we have a password policy. We implement different safeguards, like a scanning tool for the mailbox to make sure that no malware attachment is accidentally emailed to them. So that's a small part of cybersecurity. We make sure antivirus is installed on the computer. We also try to educate our users on how to use strong and secure passwords and promote. You need to change the password every 15 and 90 days is good practice. We also try to encourage our users to use a password management tool, LastPass. So all of these little things all fall under cybersecurity umbrella. And there's different things like policies and procedures that have to be applied with cybersecurity. You have to understand what policies you're writing, and then you have to implement it. So,
Wow. So legal considerations, management considerations, gatekeeping considerations, education considerations, making sure that everybody is understanding it. I can't imagine what the school IT department would be like this past year. That hustle and bustle of having parents reaching out to the school IT department for their students.
Challenging, I'm sure, very
I
challenging.
like my niece, she is in fourth grade, and you can't set a secure password for them because the kids will forget it. You can't count on the parent, so you have to make sure that the kids have access to resources, and you have to give up a level of control because when you're at store, you know you can't go to certain websites while inside the store network. But when you're at home, that level of control diminishes unless we implement some more tools which cost money, and some stores don't have the budget for it. So the IT team, I really feel for them, especially for those who work for stores, have to hobble together some kind of best effort to so the kids can continue the remote learning. It is challenging.
May, anything you wanted to add to that?
Actually, I do want to add something, but I think I'll wait until the end.
Sure.
It's not related to this.
Okay. All right. What should teachers know about cybersecurity?
They should practice cybersecurity themselves so they can help kids. And at the challenge is some kids are not tech savvy, some might be. And if you can set up a role model of, how to protect yourself on the internet, it goes beyond just academics, but also applies to their personal life. With deaf students, they may not have that camaraderie with another deaf adult that they can have these conversations with, how to be safe on the internet, how to protect yourself, what you should do, what you shouldn't do. If you see something, what did you report it? All of that falls under cybersecurity. Um, that's outside of like a job, right? But more applicable to life, real life. And the teachers should know how to help kids set up secure passwords, the signs to look out for, problems on the computer. Having that foundational basic knowledge will help students a lot. So,
I think I will go ahead and add what I wanted to say right now. So while we've been talking about cybersecurity and what you should know to protect yourself, there's something that isn't really discussed much, and that is the career field. It is huge right now. The opportunities are out there in cybersecurity. So teachers should take the opportunity to study your students and see who you think might be a great fit and kind of motivate them to follow that direction. It's a very hot career field right now. It's booming.
I agree with May.
Agreed. Movies aside, what are some common misconceptions about cybersecurity?
Cybersecurity is at the NSA, DIA level, and that it doesn't even apply to us. But social engineering, we could start that in our toolkit. It's about people trying to steal information from you by pretending to be someone else, making you click on a link. That is cybersecurity, not someone over there in Pentagon. Oh, I'm sure they play a huge role in the nation cybersecurity, but there's more day-to-day life that you need to be aware of.
Thank you. Yeah, a great point on the career goal. May. I do see that we have a question in the Q&A, so just letting you know that I see it, and we're going to hold that until the end. All right, so top 3 misconceptions. My data isn't that valuable. Cyber attacks without permission or knowledge. So what's a job situation look like in the cybersecurity field?
Very good paying job field. And it's growing. There's a high demand for jobs. And it's huge. And look at the field you want to get into. This is hot and this is not going anywhere. It will be here to stay.
Here are some statistics to back that up.
Wow, you see
These
0%
percentages, yeah.
unemployment.
0% unemployment and growing. Almost 1 million work in cybersecurity. That is a lot. Wow. With over 500,000 unfilled. Imagine the opportunities that are out there. A quarter now are women. It used to be a lower percentage, but over the last few years, that's risen up, thank goodness. Amanda, do you want to explain a little bit about the job umbrella? Maybe simple to a bit more complicated jobs.
Simpler entry-level job that every IT person would start out with is like help desk. You need to make sure that the computer is up to date, the passwords are covered, and they have antivirus. And then you get into the server and network level. There's a whole nother different cyber security and awareness to knowledge that you need in that field. And then there's like the management level where a lot of paperwork, a lot of policy writing, reading, reviewing, and implementing and enforcing. So it's a huge umbrella with different avenues within that whole field. It's not just computing. There's a lot more to it than just that.
Right. How'd you get to where
I
you're at?
worked for D, like I said before, and then my family, I was always the one who was helping them with computers and stuff like that. And then I got into that, and I decided to take some IT classes at a community college. I had one teacher that made a big impact, and he empowered me and told me, I can do it. I happen to have him for a lot of my classes throughout my associate program. And because of him, I am where I am today, because of his motivation, encouragement, and support.
The power of teachers, right?
Norm Thembay. I won't forget him.
One way to, or what might be a way that teachers
Who like to play with computers, kids who are willing to help out others if they're having a technical problem, that person would be the first one to jump in. Hey, try this, do that. They already have an inherent technical knowledge, and you just need to open it up and expose that and allow them to grow.
a willingness to help other students or to speak up and help. Okay.
With technology.
I believe that this is the last, maybe a tip. Any tips you have for the teachers?
You need to practice yourself to be able to enforce and encourage it with others. You need to understand it yourself. Your Facebook account, your bank account, your passwords, all of that needs to be secured. And just this is a highly growing, expanding field. And if you see a kid that is interested, encourage them, because this is a good area to get into.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, pop quiz for the audience. We're about to wrap up. And pop quiz is, how many unfilled cybersecurity jobs are there in the United States alone? Over 500,000, 300, 500,000, 100,000, 25,000. Go ahead and submit your answer. Hmm. 25,000, over 500,000. You have to answer. I'm so curious as to what everybody had to say. Ah, 60% said option 2, but it was actually over 500,000. 2 people got it right. Pay attention a little bit more next time. Next question. Which of these is a true statement about IT and cybersecurity? First off, the pay isn't that great. Building a career in IT cybersecurity is difficult. You don't need to be skilled in math or IT to get into cybersecurity. And Independence Day is the best depiction of cybersecurity. Independence Day was making it so that humans could win over the aliens. Amanda, what's your favorite cybersecurity movie?
Enemy of the State.
There was one other movie, the name Gia Lee Booth was in that movie about the eye. Eagle Eye. I forgot the name of the movie. No. AI scares me too, and it's wonderful, but it scares me.
Huh. All right, let's see these results. Okay. Most everybody picked the right answer. That was right. You don't need to be skilled in math or IT to get into IT cybersecurity. It's not that difficult. As Amanda explained, you could start out as a help desk person and get into more difficult and complicated trajectory of your career. We're curious as to hearing your thoughts on the cybersecurity toolkits. We're going to be announcing this soon that if you download and use it, we will be giving gift cards out for your thoughts. So look for more details coming on that.
Yes, yes. And just to add to that, we really value your feedback. It helps us to make modifications, improvements, and changes when we're thinking about future toolkits. So please do download these toolkits and share your feedback. We really appreciate it.
All right, we have 5 minutes left. I know that we did have a question in the Q&A. The question was, let me see. Fairly simple question. Is the toolkit available in PowerPoint format? Yes, it is. You can copy the slides, the Google Slides, you can copy them to your account, and then you can export it as a PPT. Or if you want, by all means, shoot us an email and ask us for the PowerPoint copy of it. We would be happy to send it back to you. That was the only question that we had in there. All right, back to this. Resources, you all will get a copy of this PowerPoint after this. As was mentioned during this webinar, there aren't enough women in cybersecurity. So here is a list of some women as resources. Nice to have here. Also different jobs, which is good for you to know what actually exists out there. And this Deaf Force Camp coming this July, very cool. Hosted in Alabama, going to be happening, like I said, this July in the summer at Alabama Institute for the Deaf and Blind. With Alabama Institute for the Deaf and Blind at University of Alabama. It's going to be really cool. Well, any parting words from either of you? Thank you both so much for coming tonight.
Are there any other questions out there? Last chance for questions from the audience.
Yeah, do we have any questions from the audience? Oh, you're welcome, Katrina. Thank you.
So for last words, I want to say I really hope you all download this and give us this feedback. We appreciate it. Also spread the word. This is a wonderful toolkit. It's a wonderful resource for all teachers and educators out there. I agree, says Amanda.
Fantastic. Well, CSD Learns thanks you both for your time and contributions to the toolkit as well, and helping shift and shape the dialogue a little bit about STEM and cybersecurity, and having that deaf ownership there, and that identity can kind of change.
Yes, I agree. It is so valuable to have this knowledge out there. It opens the eyes of the deaf community to all the potential careers and the possibilities.
Absolutely.
So thank you all. Good night.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, good night.